So far, I love Megalo Box. The plot is concise, the characters are relatable, and the visuals. God, the aesthetic is so beautiful. Now, at first glance, you're probably thinking I'm most enamored with the 90s look, with the thicker lines, the overall character designs, and that sweet end slate that looks so Cowboy Bebop. And while I love all of that, I'm blown away by the backgrounds. Yes, the background. Often, backgrounds really aren't meant to be noticed since, they're in the back. But in visual media, every aspect of the frame helps to create the narrative. And just like Akira from 88 or Ghost in the Shell from 95, the backgrounds in Megalo Box give the show such depth. Just by looking at a frame, you can immediately get a sense of the environment and the world in which these characters live. And there are so many aspects that help create this. For example, let's look at the use of hatching. Look at this frame from the first boxing arena that we see. Notice how many lines are on the walls and the floors. This technique helps to make this place look run down and unkept. Now look at this frame from the city's arena. Here the hatching is comparatively less, mostly used in the shadows. It shows that this arena is maintained, meaning that they have the resources to keep the facility orderly. Just from some hatching, you can already discern the location's care, and thus start making assumptions on the wealth of the area, the type of clientele, and even the character of the people running the place. This is why backgrounds are so important. They have so much information embedded into every choice of the mise-en-scène. So that being said, I think it's time that we get into one of my favorite aspects of the background and the mise-en-scène, which is the color. In general, colors have a wide variety of meanings depending on culture. Today, I'm going to reference color in terms of how we see it used in trends in media. Although not absolute, these trends appear often enough that they form a visual shorthand. So first, let's start where we meet Joe, on the outskirts of town. The colors here are mostly warm, browns, yellows, reds, and oranges. Here, cooler colors are mostly used in the same sense that they would be used in the real world. Grass is green, the sky is blue during the day, concrete is gray, etc. For the most part, all scenes within this region are designed within the warmer color palette when applicable. This choice in color brings to mind westerns. The dusty desert and the Rocky Mountain ranges of the American West takes on a beautiful orange palette. The natural environment also plays well into those setting sun shots, just like we get in Megalo Box. Now, this association with the West might conjure up an image of Western archetypes, although Joe doesn't really fit any to a T. The closest that we would get is the outlaw, since in the first episode it's established that he isn't a citizen and has to forge papers in order to participate in the boxing tournament. What I think fits more with the Western iconography is the location he's from. The outskirts of the city themselves are very reminiscent of our romanticized interpretation of the West. With hound races, shady boxing matches, and no real presence of a lawman, they seem to be operating under their own rules rather than the city. This is similar to how we imagine the Wild West. Since they're across the continent, it makes it harder for the central government to reach them, making crime seem more rampant. Additionally, the image of a Wild West town doesn't equate to luxury. Our context within movies usually resides in shanty towns, which don't exactly exude wealth. They seem rough, much like the streets of the outskirts. Within the context of the story, we're in the wild frontier, where you only really thrive if you have street smarts. In stark contrast, the city takes on a cool color palette. Cool colors are often coded in film and television as colors associated with the technologically advanced. Look at any current technology commercial. They use a lot of whites and cool colors as their highlights. Everything is sleek, simplistic, modern. Visually, we associate these traits with technology, ergo the future, which is also true within the world of the show. The city has more advanced technology, and we can even see this in a simple comparison between the scoreboards within the boxing arenas. Look at how you can see the lights in the screen, and there's a clear grid for them, making the letters and the numbers look more jagged in form. Now look at how crisp everything is on this screen. They have backgrounds, clearer text, more color variations. Note how blue it is. It's most likely an LED screen, allowing it to do more than the older orange digital scoreboard that you see in the outskirts. And that's not even bringing up the obvious difference in tech that they fight with. This emphasis on technology is also the reason why the city is important to the narrative. The Megalo Boxing Tournament is designed to show off the latest technology and prove its worth. If we compare these associations of color and technological advancement, we can see clear binary lines being drawn to help our understanding of the world. Having this strong visual divide helps build on the class differences between these regions. The outskirts are like the Wild West, unrefined, poor, rough, the past. The city is the idealized modern society, clean, functional, innovative, the future. The color palettes signify this class difference. Even without linking these colors to technology or the Wild West, at the very core, these colors help define the binary. Orange and blue are complementary colors, meaning that they're opposites on the color wheel. Just based on color theory alone, the colors the show chooses to emphasize tell you that Joe and Yuri, the outskirts in the city, are opposing forces. Speaking about characters, this color palette is also reflected in them. Joe, Pops, and Sachio wear a designated warm hue. Joe's being mostly red and sometimes orange highlights, Pops being yellow, and Sachio being orange. This choice in color allows them to blend in with the backgrounds of the outskirts, but as soon as they're put into the city, a place that they don't belong, they pop out. Meanwhile, the characters that we've seen so far from the city tend to wear either neutral or cool colors. The exception of which seems to be Yuri, who notably wears red when he first meets Joe. This is in order to emphasize what is happening in the scene. Joe and Yuri are both boxers who are driven by their need to be challenged. Neither of them care about the fame or the money that comes with winning. They only care about facing a worthy opponent. In this scene, they would fight each other, and not because they're mad, but rather because they respect the challenger. The gauntlet was thrown and both respect the rules of combat. It's because of the shared mentality that Yuri wears Joe's color in the scene. Although they'll be opposing forces in the future, we're establishing in this moment that they're not so different. This is also similar to the reason why red is used as a color for Megalonia. First, we should consider boxing as a sport. As we've established, the outskirts are viewed as being more primal than the city. A sport like boxing, where you're hitting your opponent, would seem to belong more in the rowdy outskirts rather than the sophisticated city. So red then, a color of the outskirts, would seem a fitting color. And if we look at it from the characters' colors, you get an automatic connection with Joe. This is his show, his event. Unless we get Rocky ending, which I'm totally alright with, we'd expect Joe to be the winner. He is the protagonist after all, and his color, therefore Joe himself, is one of the defining aspects of Megalonia. I want to leave you with one last thought, and that's the use of sunsets. In nearly every episode, there's been some point that they've had a beautiful orange sunset, and that's for a very good reason. The scenes that are bathed in orange light are usually highly important, emotional moments for Joe and the gang. The sun is setting when Pop says that they'll compete in Megalonia, when Sachio decides to go steal the gear and thus joins the team, when they're driving home after Joe wins his first gearless Megalonia match, and when Pops feels regret while Joe connects with Albuquerque. The use of orange here not only highlights the warmth that you're supposed to feel emotionally, but also emphasizes the importance of these moments for the plot. Sure, the use of color cleverly shows off a dichotomy, but really, these moments are the best. Even if Joe wasn't associated with these warm colors, the repetition of orange sunsets in emotional moments for the main cast really stands out. Visually, they're strikingly beautiful, creating, at the very least, a memorable impression. And the repetition hints you into the fact that these are key moments, because on a subconscious level, you start to recognize the pattern. Plot-wise, these moments don't need to happen during sunsets, but they do, because they're visually representing strong moments for our warm-colored wearing trio. As you can see, the use of color in the backgrounds and the mise-en-scène can tell you a lot about a show. This is one of the many reasons why I love Megalo Box, and next week I'm gonna gush about why it's so brilliant storytelling. So if you don't want to miss that, hit that sub button. And if you like what I talked about today, please consider sharing the video, it helps me out a lot. If you want to hear more from me, check out either this video on my hero's use of real names or whatever YouTube thinks that you'd like. I'm Rei, and I'll see you in the next video.